You're listening to Parasearch Radio, news, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or their affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Good evening and welcome to the Dark Mirror Paranormal Show. My name is Kerry Greenaway and I'm joined in the studio by my lovely co-hosts, as usual, the lovely Mark Manley. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, and I must say a very special good evening to Carl Doggo Richardson. Hello, Carl.
Mr. Carl Hutchinson. Carl is currently in a car at the moment, in case anybody is wondering what those references are. So, where are you, Carl?
I'm currently in the car park in the middle of nowhere at Drakelow Tunnels. I've just come in from our first session, so I've just had to leave that going for a little while. And now I'm sat in a car in a dark, wooded area in a car park. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we know what he's doing in his spare time.
Yeah, sadly, there's none of that going to be doing it because I'm literally I'm locked in. I can't get out of the car park because it's nobody can get in to do anything weird either. So
I just have.
I know Drake goes down. Like that place.
I just have visions of a policeman coming and knocking on your window at some point. So.
Well, excuse me, sir.
If it's my view, literally, I'm in as you go into Drakelow, between the Drakelow tunnels. Yeah. So where the blast door is to get into the place, there's like a cut between two sides, paved, and I'm basically, my car is facing towards the road, and yeah, so yeah, interesting.
I have to say, we can see him on camera, and it looks very bizarre. He's sort of like in the car, and he's got this light that's sort of like moving around. Oh, it's so funny.
Just put that head up, seeing up and down at the bottom camera there, Carl.
I have no idea, mate.
Okay, all right. Before I forget, take my condolences to the Waters family over there in Ireland. Completely really shocked about that. So, heartfelt condolences to them.
Yeah, and that's from everybody from Parasearch Radio on that one as well. It was absolutely shocking news this week. It's been a bit of a shocker this year so far, what with Derek Okora passing as well.
Yeah, very, very sad news on that front.
Yeah, it's so far in the paranormal, it's been quite a sad start to the year, but it can only hopefully stop now, please, because I think we're done now, thanks. In the paranormal field.
We're not even halfway through January yet.
I know. It's scary, isn't it? So, anyway, we are talking all about music in the paranormal tonight. Now, when I brought this concept to the table, it came off the back of something that happened back in the 60s or the 70s, was it? Where two very diverse groups joined together for a festival. And it got me thinking, as it does, you know. The Hare Krishna group joined together with, who did they join together with? I can't remember now. Can anybody remember?
Was it Ramsden's Fish and Chip Shop, and then they came out with Harry Ramsden's?
No, good try, but no, try the hippie counterculture scene.
Like, wow, dude.
You can imagine what kind of party that was, can't you? With the Hare Krishnas. Now...
Can you imagine Harry Krishna smoking a load of weed? Because they would be. They'd have to. They'd be having edibles and everything. And they'd be like, do you know what? I'm not going to bounce up and down. I'm not going to hop about. I'm not going to give you a bit of chocolate and say Happy Krishna because I'm just too out there, man. They're just going to be like, I need a nap and chocolate.
Well, this musical melding kind of, I would have been very interested to sort of like see. So if anybody can find any footage of this particular event, then please send it to me, because I couldn't find any.
Everybody fell asleep. Nobody held the cameras. They're just too stoned.
But this brought me in mind of how we use music in the paranormal, and it's actually a topic that covers so many different areas when we started having like a little brainstorming session. So when we talk about music in the paranormal, Carl, you up first. What does it bring into mind for you?
Well, when it comes to music in the paranormal, I use it quite a lot in different investigations, depending on the location, because I think sometimes what we do, it's kind of on the same sort of lines as the Singapore experiment. So what I do with music is I play music of the time. For instance, we've just done, funny enough, before I came on the radio, we'd just done an experiment in one of the tunnels where we played Vera Lynn and did an EVP experiment. So that was quite interesting. But when you mention music, in my own life and what I've been doing in the paranormal, I use it sort of as a trigger. But then again, there is the other side of it, which we have used, which is when you go the old school, and that's when you're talking about the singing bowls, where you try and resonate a certain note.
Tibetan bowls, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's basically what I would describe as using music in the paranormal.
We've used music, haven't we, as well? We used Vera Lynn when we did Rougham Tower. Mark, do you remember?
Yes, we did. And Rougham Tower, we had, that was a really good one, especially out on the airstrip itself, when we picked up on that bomber. That was rather interesting. And Carl, are you all right there, mate? You're looking happy as Larry in the back of that car there. Mm-hmm.
I'm not in the back of the car, I'm in the front of the car. And to be truthfully honest, as people have known on the shows that I do, and this is one location that I don't really like to be on my own. Particularly... yeah. So I'm sat in my car. It's cold. It's currently 3 degrees.
He can't even have the engine on to keep him warm, can he?
Oh no, I will be putting the engine on just because obviously I don't want to run the battery down because you're the full charge.
Sat behind you.
My phone's completely and utterly got no signal. The places where I had signal before doesn't, so I've had to borrow a friend's phone.
What is sat behind you? Just there on to the left of you. Oh, it's a thing of lube and a box of tissues. That's all right,
oh
mate.
My God! I was wondering where he was going to go with that. But thank God he went the sexual innuendo one.
I need to give that back since you borrowed my car. So you left them in my car. So.
Anyway, back to
topic, that's where they went. I wonder where they went.
Back to topic, guys. Well, I think it's quite a common thing, isn't it, to play music that's very evocative of a time period to see if you can create, or like you say, it's a trigger to try and create a feeling of the time period that you think the spirit or ghost is from. That's quite a common one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly what he was saying. That using the music and like with the Singapore experiment, where you used the speech and however, like ye olde words or whatever, however they were speaking back in the time of the people that you're trying to connect to, because they reckon that all that opens up the ethereal universe where we live when we move on.
Yeah, I also feel because you are like the Singapore experiment where you're dressing up to make dressing up in period clothing and you playing music, etc. Because you don't know whether these spirits actually know they're dead. They could look at you and think, why are you wearing, what's that on your head? If you're wearing a baseball cap or you got like a jacket on that they wouldn't recognise. It's similar to playing music. If they don't recognise it, are they going to react to it? So what I do with it is I do it to try and make them feel comfortable to want to come and communicate with us.
Yeah.
That is something that at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do out there, right? Is like communicate. But music in itself is incredibly evocative, isn't it? I love that word tonight, clearly. I've used it 2 or 3 times already. Music, when you think about music, it always gives you an emotional reaction. Even if you don't like it, you'll get that emotional reaction. But if you think about classical music, how even that will, although it's got no words, it's no singing in some classical music, it still gives you that emotional reaction, doesn't it? So is it actually about changing your personal vibration, or raising your personal vibration? Because I was thinking about when we're in like a church or something, and you know, you're doing singing, or you're at a concert, and that feeling, it's raising that emotional group response to a higher plane. Is that what we're trying to achieve with that, or do you think that's different?
I think it's totally different.
Okay. Won't be a second.
Okay, I think that's totally different. If you're in a group like in a choir or something, yes, it is spiritual, that's not paranormal. And if you're trying to change your vibration, may I suggest The New Rabbit by Ann Summers? It's slightly different.
Is it the police of knocking on his window? That's really what I want to know now.
Excuse me, sir, could you pull your trousers back up, please?
Excuse me, sir, could you just step outside the vehicle? Carl has had to leave the vehicle for some reason. But anyway, going back into that emotional response. So is it then, because the amount of times you go on a paranormal investigation on the road trip to the place, you've got the music on, you're all singing, you're all excited, you're all happy, so you're entering that environment in a different kind of mental mindset to how you would be if you're just going on like a normal day out kind of road trip. There is a definite level of emotional charge on the road trip up, isn't there?
I think no matter what sort of road trip you're doing, or even if you're going on holiday, if you're going down to see your family or whatever, you've got to have driving music because it improves everybody's mood anyway. But I mean, say like you're going to I don't know, be taken off by a UFO and probed, stick some Tubular Bells on or something like that, and it's the right mood music. But, he's back. He's got his handcuffs off now. He's back.
Okay, Carl, he's back in the room with his torch.
I don't know what you're doing to that torch, but
sorry, I've got to put the car engine on, so the phone won't run out. So if it's too noisy, I'll have to come up with another idea.
Okay, we'll see how we go with that one.
All these lights flashing around. There you go. That's the alien connection this week. It's Carl. He's not Draco Tunnels at all. He is up at some area 51, 52 and a half, something like that, and he's just about to get probed. That's it. There's the light again. Look at that. Aliens! There you go.
It is a very strange show tonight, guys, because we have got Carl in the car scenario. So, where was I going with that thought? So is it actually anything to do with what you're listening to, or is it the resonances and harmonies within the music that's causing that? Because there are other theories to do with resonances and harmony, and that's not a musical piece. That's just creating a resonance.
Did you know that and it's a useless bit of information for you, but the whole reason ABBA became so successful is because of the harmonies that they do in each of their songs, and apparently they're the only group ever to do the harmonies the way that they do, and because the harmonies are absolutely spot on, and that's why they became so monumentally successful.
And that's why they're quite difficult to sing, everybody. We can all shout them, but we can't actually sing them.
I do like listening to the harmonies because I was trained to sing professionally a long time ago, and I sing in band, blah blah blah. But if you listen to a lot of songs and you listen to them properly, you can actually start to pick up the harmonies that you never even noticed were there before.
No,
and I do
agree.
think a lot of them, depending what vibrations they're or what frequency they're on, will set the mood. And it depends what the frequency is as to what's the frequency, Kenneth, as to what mood it is.
Exactly. Well, I know that Norman Fay was doing certain research in regards to sacred sites and saying that each of those areas had a specific resonance, that once you played all those resonances together, or those frequencies, should I say, together, that it created a specific harmony that actually opened up a portal. Now, he hasn't actually physically tried this. Now, I was wondering, first of all, you would have to know exactly what instrument or is vocal key it would need to be in. But this has come up recently in Hellier 2 as well, hasn't it?
Yeah. Obviously in Hellier 2, there's an experiment where they're saying play that tune, and there was 3 chords. And they then sung it. And they were doing a spirit box session at the same time. And it was saying, sing it louder. and again. And basically, what the theory behind it is, it's a bit like there was a film that did something similar, where you play a tune, and it then opens up a door.
Mm.
And it's a similar thing. What the theory behind it is the resonancy of the notes that you're playing.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yes.
Where they go, the sound that they're doing. Yeah, exactly. But it's the resonance of the notes, and that's what they do. That's what they one of the bits in Hellier 2. Which, if you've not seen it, you need to go out and watch it, because your mind will just go.
So many questions, so many concepts come through on that. But in the talking of Helio 2, the tones that they got were given while they were doing the Persinger helmet experiment, whilst they were actually at Point Pleasant. This is where our alien link comes in for our lovely Mark here, and she was saying that she was talking about. She was talking not to a human entity. She was talking, and they weren't talking in words. Like one word was like a million words within one word, wasn't it? And it was a series of images and colours, actually, was it? So what do we think then of, because we say that each colour has a resonance on the electromagnetic field, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
so is it actually more to do with that? We talk about frequencies. Could it then?
It's all, everything vibrates. So, and if you've got something, everything, literally everything vibrates, sound, everything. And if you've got something that vibrates to an acuity with your own vibration, it's going to give you a feeling of euphoria or sadness or anger to kill you or, oh, let's get it on. You know,
but isn't that we talk about in terms of manifestation work? We also talk in terms of like raising your vibration to the vibration you want to achieve. So it's about tuning in to that frequency that you want to manifest. So when we're talking in regards to the paranormal, if we were able to, and I don't know if this is possible, this might be something Carl could answer, being the tech wizard. If we knew the frequency that colours resonate to, and we knew the colours that were being transmitted at the time, and then played the tones or the frequencies of those colours at the same time, would that be more relevant than the sound?
I think it's all to do with the resonance. I think the colour can be part of it, but my limited knowledge on this kind of subject, what I believe and what I've sort of spoken to people about who are playing around with sound and stuff like that, it's that each sound has a different tone, and if you play around in between those tones, it's a bit like if you get to ultrasound machines, that machine that goes and you point each other. There's a point between them where the sound will bounce, so you'll get a change in the sound where both sounds hit, and that's obviously a sweet spot in the resonancy. So if you can play around with that, so you drop it and raise the different tones to produce different sweet spots. And I think the theory behind it is you're just trying to find out what potentially you would get if you're doing an EVP, or you're trying to get a voice coming through on a spirit box, something like that, and you're trying to get a resonancy where you're getting clearer responses. Because I always think, particularly with a spirit box or an EVP, there's some of them where you can hear it crystal clear. You can make out a single word, but then there's other ones that there's something there because you're not talking, but you can't work it out. And I just think that potentially it's to do with it's just slightly out of resonance.
Right.
So you playing around with the sound.
We all know what you're playing around with in that car, mate. Carry on.
Both hands are here. But yeah, I think the playing around with sound, different sound waves, like going lower, so it's under the human hearing, or higher
infrasound.
Yeah, infrasound. Playing around with that, and then I don't know much about the colour side of it, but I know that they say each level has a different colour, and as you say, like infrasound, infrared, and whatever, they all have different colour codes. So I'm not 100% sure because I haven't really done much work on that, but I have played around on investigations with infrasound, where you play around with the different tone resonance, and it will affect you. I know you can play one tone for somebody, and they'll start to feel sick because it affects their equilibrium in their ear. And then you play another one, and somebody else will have a different type of feeling. So it can affect the body. So with that,
but it's also. I was going to say it's also because you're going between 0.1 and 2.0 or 20 megahertz, I should say, or 10 hertz, I should say. But there's also similar sort of thing and to do with your body, and there's places you can hit and touch and this, that, and the other, and that will instill. Because I've had to do it, and I know where the spots are, and that does very similar things. It can alleviate moods. It can get rid of your headaches. It can make you go. It can make you very nasty, and it can make you, So I think it all works on the same thing, and I do believe that colours do have their own frequency for the simple reason that you can split them, and if you can split them, you must be able to get frequency for it.
Well, isn't 19 hertz supposed to be known as the fear frequency?
That's the one. That's the one that everybody who, when they are getting affected by EMF, that's the similar one. When they start to have feelings of dread and nausea and sweating and oh my God, somebody's going to come and get me. Yeah.
Because I'm sure there was a graveyard in Edinburgh, and there's a specific tomb. I can't remember the name of it. It's just come to me while we were talking. And they went and looked at it, and this frequency seems to hit at this particular spot. And they were saying that's why people were having those experiences there, because of the frequency that's in that area, that 19 hertz frequency. I'll have to dig that out, because I believe it was work done by Steve Parsons, if I remember rightly. I could be wrong. I could be dragging up mixed memories.
And
there.
wasn't there some sort of crystalline material used in the grave as well?
I don't know. I can't remember that many details. It was just
I know what you're on about.
Yeah, it was just a blog I'd read a little while ago, quite a while ago now, probably. So we're coming to the understanding then that music is actually more about the resonances and frequencies more than the actual piece of music. I think the worst thing I heard was Hellfire Caves. A group had gone in to investigate Hellfire Caves, and they thought that music would be a good way to evoke the spirits. But the music they chose I found very, very questionable. But I could see it from two perspectives. What they actually played was Let It Go by Frozen, from the Frozen movie, the Disney movie.
I am.
I let that bomb drop there.
Because I've got the adult version of that in my head at the moment. I'm just see that being played around the Hellfire Caves.
Yeah. Well, they played that. But then I was thinking, right, why did they choose that particular piece of music? Because it's obviously nothing to do with the location and the time period or, anything to do with that sort. But I was wondering, actually, although we mock that, very much so, I would like to add. So many jokes. So many jokes. Or was it to raise their own spirits? Because you know what investigations can be like. It can be, you're sat there for hours and hours in the dark and the cold, and the Hellfire Caves is cold. And it's echoey, so it'll give you those great acoustics when bellowing out a song. I would like to say that. So was it more to do with them than it was to do with trying to create spirit? Unless spirit were going to come forward and say, oh, please stop now. What do we think on that one? Because I have to say, to play that at a location was a bit... When I heard that, I was like, they did what? They played what? It was all a bit baffling to me.
It could have been worse. They could have gone in there and played Je t'aime.
Well, this is true. God.
Or Pink Fluffy Clouds or something like that. Or what's that? I am the god of hellfire, and I bring you that one.
Fire. That's a cool song. Anyway, off topic. So, is it more about them bolstering their own spirits up rather than trying to create? I think Carl's still in shock about what he's just found out there.
No, I'm just thinking. Well, unless you're into the sound and obviously the way the song plays and everything like that, whether there's a certain resonance to that, that's what I don't know whether they were trying to do that, or like you say, if everybody knows when they go out on an investigation, if you've got the right type of energy in a group, like you're all upbeat and whatever, and you're having a bit of a joke and a laugh, and everybody's like, oh yeah, this is good fun, and everything, etc., etc. That obviously you're going to have a different. Your energy levels are going to be up, because you know what it's like when you go on an investigation. It just takes one person who's had a bad day to bring and you don't get any activity.
Yeah.
So I can't see that it would. I would say probably to bolster their mood, to help their energy in a group to be upbeat.
I'd agree, and particularly we see in the cold and the dark in these places, and hellfires. Yeah. Any cave system is generally pretty cold, isn't it? I can imagine that the cold never bothered me anyway at the end bit, you know what I mean? And them giving it, another EVP session. You know what I mean?
Ladies and gentlemen, she had to. She had to do that. She's rocking her dressing gown there, and she's like,
oh, yeah. Should have
and it's like,
before we come live on air, mate.
I did. The language was terrible. She was scared of everything.
So talking about music then, I know Mark has gone away and he's found some rock and rollings, because we have covered this before on Parasearch Radio. Music groups love a bit of the occult and the dark and the mysterious and demonic, don't they? They love that as a form of inspiration. And you found out a few bits and bobs. We're not going to go too deep into this, but you did find out a few bits and bobs. I've got to let him have loose rein on this, Carl, just for a minute. All right?
Bits and bobs. And I hasten to add that I neither agree nor disagree with these singers and artists, although a couple of them I do look at and raise one eyebrow questioningly and say, where's the jacket with all the straps? That's all I'm saying. Point in fact, Kesha. She reckons that one of her songs, she had an interview a while back with somebody called Ryan Seacrest, and she claimed that one of the songs on her new album was inspired by a
before you go on, Mark, you don't know who Ryan Seacrest is?
I didn't say that. Shut up and let me talk. God. Kerry, slap him. I finished talking.
Hold on 1 second. Do you know who Ryan Seacrest is?
Does this face look like the sort of person who knows who that is? No, of course I don't.
Ryan Seacrest is the presenter of the equivalent of the X Factor in the States. He's on E Entertainment satellite channel a lot. He's a very, very. He's like the equivalent if you moulded Anton Deck into one.
Yeah,
he's basically that.
He does live from the red carpet at the Oscars and the Golden Globes and stuff like that as well. He does all that
stuff like that. So,
big bloke, big important man, that one. Yeah. Anyway, carry on, Keisha.
Oh, thank you. Can I talk now?
Sorry.
Right. Kesha turned around and said that one of the songs on a new album was inspired by a sexual experience she had with a ghost. She would not name who the Phantom Lever was, but she did say, I didn't know his name. So even with the afterlife, didn't even bother to get the guy's name, number, nothing.
Oh, that's terrible.
Make of that one what you will. Pete Townsend, every time he plays live on stage, he can still feel his former bandmates, John Entwistle and Keith Moon, every single time they get the group play. There's a few others I'm going to... Oh, God. There's Brian May looking like Mary Antoinette there with his hair. Brian May didn't enjoy his time in Munich. Apparently, Musicland studio is cursed. He said it was an utterly depressing place and people used to commit suicide by jumping off the building, and you could feel it in the building.
Ah. Well, we have said that music is very evocative, haven't we?
Pink said her daughter talks to the dead as well. So there's another one.
But that's, being creative is quite key, isn't it, in regards to experiences? And how many times? Carry on.
You've also got people like Liam Gallagher who reckon that they can see things. And I'm sorry, Liam, mate, we've all seen you with those massive eyebrows. The only thing you can see is your eyebrows flapping around when you go, hey, mate, get it some too much. So, On a prayer.
He's an incredibly great songwriter, though. He's very creative in that way.
No.
Songs, but when you see them all go, hey, mate, ain't giving it like that, you're just like, dude, I'm originally from Manchester. What are you playing at? Put your trousers up. Have some respect. Go on.
Carl?
I would just say
with your eyebrows.
Liam's just a frontman.
Well, anyway. So, music, very evocative, again. So you hear a song, it creates, even 10 years, you get memory from a song, right?
Yeah.
So you can listen to a song and go, I remember the time I heard that song and I was doing so and so and so and so. Or a song can remind you of a person, particularly very, very poignant, when that person has passed. And how often have we thought of a person and the next song to come on the radio happens to be the song that reminds you of them? Is that coincidence?
I'll get a song on my head. Put it on there. Yeah, my dad, if I hear Oh Danny Boy or anything like that, I'm a complete wreck. And I'm thinking about my dad and stuff. Or certain songs, as you know yourself, like there's a certain song takes me straight back to my first ever kiss as a teenager, Debbie Harry, French Kissing in the USA. Every time I hear that, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Oh, even the dog agreed with that one. But memories are stored.
The dogs remembering the kiss as well, Mark.
Yeah.
I'll give you that one.
You walked into.
So
I did. A bit like the lady whose head is. I think that's a lady's head going up there. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, carry on.
We talk. Oh God, I gotta say, head him off before he goes too far. So oh my God, when we store memories, we don't store them in a linear fashion. We don't store them like a video recorder, like people seem to think. We store them. Memories get stored by association, right? And that is why certain memories will be fixed to a certain song. So, that is why that happens. It's to do with how we store memory. Is that then coincidence if we think of a person, then we hear that song, or is that coincidence, or is that a message from spirit?
I've also got an experiment for you. You've just reminded me. What I was saying about...
Can we answer the question first?
No.
Yes.
I don't know.
What's
your thoughts on it? What's your thoughts on it?
I want your thoughts on it. You know my belief system. I'll see that as a sign.
I think depending on the situation and your mental state at the time, it could be a message, or it could be you wanting to hear that message and hearing it regardless. And sometimes it might just be the right song at the right time.
Carl?
But what I was also...
Oh, we'll go to your experiment in a second. Carl?
I think there's a lot of coincidence in it. As you were saying, you like a particular song and you're thinking about somebody and then all of a sudden it plays. Depending on what song it is, I suppose. Could be a coincidence. Could be something else. I agree with you. Your memories are stored in a different way, and certain things might trigger certain emotions, such as like music, like smells, certain perfumes, etc., etc. So
that's like when you go around Kerry's and all you can smell is Brussels sprouts. But
yeah, like you say, people. I know people that when they smell. Funny enough, you mentioned Brussels sprouts, but they smell Brussels sprouts and it gives them memories of their mum.
Because of Christmas,
Christmas and stuff like that. So,
do you know,
I think memories get triggered by different things, sound, smells, even like when you come to deja vu a little bit, where you think you think you've been there and you see something. Say you're going to a place you haven't been to, and you see a building, and all of a sudden you go, "Hang on, I know that building, and it's triggering
Yeah.
in your head through your sight to be able to trigger that memory. So, as Kerry said, memories can be triggered by all sorts of different things, not just music.
Okay, Mark, what was you going to say before I went? No, answer the question.
Oh, right. Yes, what I was going to say is, that thought about when you can hear a song in your head, and if you put the radio on, it's there, this, that, and the other. I've noticed that since things have been turned over to DAB and they've gone off normal radio frequencies, that's got less and less and less. If I use a normal radio where you're using frequencies, I'll get a song in my head and it's on there. But if it's a digital one, it doesn't happen.
So when we do investigations,
can I just say something? But a DAB is just a form of a signal. But at the end of the day, it's still the same broadcast. So are you saying that you'll think of a song, and then all of a sudden it'll be on the radio, but it has to be on an analog station?
Yes, yeah. That's what I find for myself, because like sometimes I'll have vivid dreams, and the only time I'll have vivid dreams is the deja vu thing you were talking about. I'll have a really vivid dream, and then it could be 10 years later, and I'll be driving down the road, walking down the road, talking to a particular person, whatever, and it goes bang, and I'm back in that dream at that particular point going, oh, bloody hell, I've done this. Similar sort of thing.
but even when we talk about the skull experiment, they were talking about the spirit team that were working said you had to use a specific type, or they devised a specific type of radio, which went back to an earlier type radio, which was had a crystal something or other.
Yeah. Well, you've got the
crystal headset,
Yeah, because of the resonance that provided, the frequency that provided, made it easier for the spirit team to be able to communicate through that. So do you think our technology that we're using nowadays is cutting off those frequencies for spirit to be able to interact?
Well, I think it comes down to another option is, as when people talk about the spirit box, basically what you're looking for is producing white noise.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what you're trying to do is you're trying to listen for white noise. Digital radios like DABs, modern bits of equipment now, it's more clearer because everybody wants crystal clear sound.
Yeah.
It comes down to the way it's played, or what you're listening through. If you're listening through noise cancelling headphones, you're basically just enhancing that sound. So my theory would be when you use old school radios or analog radios, there is parts during a broadcast where there is basically still going to be a resonance of white noise during a broadcast.
I prefer using analog, like spirit boxes and stuff, to using digital, because although digital and modern day equipment can do a lot and it can help you filter stuff and this, that, and the other, I do still think that a lot of white noise, when people use it to try and commune, a lot of that I think is down to your own hearing and whatever frequencies you can hear and what you perceive and pick out of that white noise. If you're using apps and this, that, and the other that can take this out and take that out, I think that's detrimental to the experience you're trying to have, if you see what I mean, because you're filtering out bits that you might actually hear things from. So I prefer to use the analog.
That's exactly the point I was just raising as well. So yeah. I agree with you.
We're always spot on, him and me.
So, it's a matter of opinion.
You talk to Pet Rocks.
But we thought, okay, bring that into the table then. We talk about everything having a resonance or a frequency. That's exactly the same as what we do when we talk about crystals and your own frequency. It's affecting that resonance, bringing it into your aura, affects your own frequency, your own physical frequency to help you, manifest or work in a specific way, whether that be tuning into psychic powers or healing powers or universal energy or whatever you want to call it. It's exactly
I like to tune into Sexy powers. Mm-hmm.
Austin, Austin Powers eat your heart out with this one over here tonight. I tell
Yeah,
ya.
baby. Your mama with that mouth. Mm-hmm.
So let's check some ideas on the table. Right, so tonight you're at Drakelow Tunnels. You've said
Yep.
you played Vera Lynn because there's
Yep.
World War II links.
Yeah.
Did Vera Lynn mind?
Sorry.
Vera Lynn mind? Did she say, "Yeah, you can play with me"?
No, we haven't listened back to the EVPs because obviously I had to come out and do the show. So I don't know whether they've captured anything or not. So.
So what else could you use there? Because that's got a whole history. It's not just one area, is it? I mean, you've got, like, particularly in the UK, you know, you could go to a location, it has like whole different sections of history.
Those tunnels are all back off onto the ancient. Is it an Iron Age fort or whatever it was?
It's a dragon
on
mound,
the hillside.
isn't it? It's called the Dragon Mound.
Yeah. So you can use
it's
drums
also
and
to do
stuff.
with- Yeah, you
Like back then.
you can see that there's a large amount of a certain type of rock in the tunnels because they're basically all been. You can see them. You can see, some of it obviously was below, and some of it was hand chiseled. You can see the marks on the walls. It's 6.5 miles of tunnel underneath the hill, and we're not just talking small tunnels. We're talking tunnels that you can basically drive a lorry through because obviously it was built.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, that's
a
where one of
great
the deaths
echo in there.
happened.
You want to have a go at Let It Go, mate.
It is one of the deaths that happened in there was a person being run over on that bend by that truck, wasn't it?
Yeah. There's not many written or historical reports of the deaths.
There isn't.
I think more people have died in Drakelow than they've actually been documented. But there's several different documented of deaths that have happened at Drakelow. Which not just music that we're going to be playing. We're going to be playing some sounds later as well. Obviously, it was built particularly for.
Yeah.
2 seconds.
Ladies and gentlemen, just to keep the momentum going here, Mr. Carl himself in his anorak there he's either being spooked or
No,
he's got a policeman questioning why his trousers around his ankles. We don't know.
My car's playing up.
Ooh.
My electrics just went. I
Ooh.
understand that the engine wasn't running, but the engine is running. And
You've got a Range Rover in, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
Brand new. And
Take it back. Put 50p in the meter.
No. It just literally all the electrics went, which has happened to me before with other cars at Drakelow. But now it's working fine again. It didn't go in. It didn't go into like stop and start where basically it's not in gear. So very, very strange. But I've restarted it, and it's fine. But yeah, just literally for 20 seconds, 30 seconds, the dashboard went, all the electrics, the lights went. So yeah,
Aliens!
Kind
That's it. Aliens, you have a UFO above your head.
There is reports at Drakelow of strange lights seen in the sky.
Yes, but we get that a lot. A lot of those reports come out of ancient burial grounds, strange lights being seen around ancient burial sites. Now, when you look at stuff like that and looking at the location of Drakelow Tunnels, the mound itself is called the Dragon's Mound, isn't it, if I remember rightly? And it is an ancient Iron Age?
I'm not 100% sure on that. I know above, basically where the country park is, which is basically on top of where we are, towards more like the small area of the village of where there's like a village behind, and they've got playing fields and stuff like that. But I believe that there is some sort of old fort or old burial mound. I'm not.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure on that part of it. because obviously it doesn't really come into investigating because how much is above where we are above us. But I do believe there is something above us, but I'm not 100% on what or if or whatever the position of it.
One of the very earliest forms of musical ritual would have been drumming. We talked about that briefly at the beginning of the top of the show, was drumming. Have either of you tried drumming in an investigation?
No, I haven't, but I'd give it. I would personally, if it was somewhere like Drakelow Tunnels, and we're out in one of the old bits, I'd give that a go because I think you might be surprised what would happen.
I haven't actually physically done drumming, but I have heard drumming at where was it? Dudley Castle. The keep area where you drive into the centre of Dudley Castle, from the outside into the inner keep. We were on an investigation there once, and there was three of us, and we were just standing having a chat before we went on to a different area of the thing, and all three of us heard at the same time drumming, as in somebody was drumming.
Yeah.
Edinburgh Castle's supposed to have that as well, aren't they? I think it's Edinburgh Castle. It's supposed to have the drummer boy.
There's a lot of castles that have reports of they see a drummer boy or you hear drumming, etc., because when these castles were, and say there were a castle that was under siege, there'd be usually a boy would be drumming for the soldiers.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
So potentially, because obviously the nature of what it is it a playback? Are we then looking at kind of a bit like the stone tape theory? So is it just a recording?
No, totally agree with that.
And your energy is basically producing the right trigger to hear to play back the recording. I know there's a lot of people out there have different views on the stone tape theory, but the basics behind it about the original, or like going back to when they first started recording on wax coils.
That's right, cylinders, wasn't it?
You used to shout at it, and that the shouting of it produced indentations in the wax coil that was going around, and then you could then play it back. Why can't that happen with other material that potentially could record something, and it just takes the right frequency, energy, whatever you want to call it, to trigger the playback?
One thing I was going to point out is when Kerry and myself, when we used to go out and do investigations, if I was looking into the place, if it was a place where we'd had a lot of things happen, I'd go right into what's in the bedrock, and if there's any crystalline substances in the bedrock, and 9 out of 10 times there was always some form of crystal in there on the places where we had things happen.
Well, Kerry's the crystal lady.
It does.
I believe in the stone tape theory.
What they say, every location has a lot of quartz in it.
But when you look at Gettysburg, there's no quartz in that area whatsoever.
But there was a lot of violent death at the same time.
But when we talk about recording, then you've got to look at. I do think there is something to that method. Yeah, but I think it goes beyond one type of thing. I think it needs a set of circumstances of multiple things. I think water has got to be prevalent somewhere, somehow, in there. What that plays, I don't believe that's the bit it records to. Everyone goes, oh yeah, but water has memory. Well, if you look into that deeper, hasn't actually been proved. It's, it gets bandied about a lot, but when you look at it more deeply, the research is a bit shady. In all honesty, it's a lovely theory. But when you look at it deeper, it
takes 8,000 years to go right around the world.
But I do think that it plays a part in that. I do think the mineral content in the area plays a part in that too. I think you have to also look at meteorological or cosmological influences in regards to electromagnetic fields and the earth fields. I mean, we talk about that. One of the strangest phenomena, I don't know if either of you have heard it, is sky trumpets. When you just hear noises coming out of the air, right?
Yes.
That's another
There's
noise
been a lot
thing.
of that going on.
Yeah, but they've actually worked out what that is now.
Go on.
And it's to do with the tectonic plates creating an echo, and it creates a noise in the above, in the sky. It bounces off of the atmosphere and creates this very strange noises. And if you ever hear them, they're very unnerving, those noises, aren't they, sky trumpets? When you hear them on the internet, they're very, very strange. And it is enough, if you don't know what it is, to make you go, "Oh, that's a little weird." But there is something.
You've also got the sonic booms that are going about as well.
Yeah, I mean, but these things, they do find answers for. Scientists do find answers for. But there is something called, like, the Earth is constantly in movement. Earth masses and that are constantly in movement all the time. And they create their own sounds and whatnot. And so it does stand to reason that at some point it's going to come so that it's audible, that we can hear it. And there is something called a Teutonic plate, a Teutonic field, which is strong enough to actually charge. When you talk to some I'm going to get this word wrong. I'm going to say exhibitionists, but that's not the right word, is it? When they go out on an exhibition, not exhibition.
Something else. Exhibitionist could be something else.
Yeah, that's not the word I'm searching for. When they go trekking off into the middle of, like, nowhere. Explorers, thank you. I knew there was an X in there somewhere. Little Kerryism for you there.
Hey, just bang.
It's like an exhibitionist. They have a battery that they actually just tap into the ground that charges the battery from this Teutonic field. And that's interesting when you start looking at that. It's incredibly complicated. But when you look at all these natural forces at work, and it's a play on... I don't think it's a one-factor thing. Oh, it's because of the quartz content, or it's because of the water content, or it's because of this. I think it's actually a combination of effects as to why possibly something could get recorded in that area. Now, going back to drumming, we did a session at a pub, and we had... Do you remember this? We had drumming coming through on the spirit box, and it was getting louder and louder and louder, to the point we were like going, "Oh my God." And it felt like it was getting closer as well, wasn't it? That was at the World's End. And then at the end there was the bugle.
Yeah. Oh, the early cursor to the talking board. I was having a conversation with Calvin Van Crosch, and Karen from Talking Board Association, and Calvin's got some what they call spirit trumpets.
Yes,
and that's all to resonate the sound, etc., etc. Sound goes in, and obviously then you try and communicate that way. It's the same principle.
Mm-hmm.
So spirit trumpets aren't ghost.
No. And they used to have a trumpet. If you did a seance, the old Victorian seances would always have an old... And we're not talking about a trumpet that you would play. It's just like a horn, isn't it? It just looks like an old gramophone type horn. Trumpet is what we're sort of talking about. One of those on the table to amplify the noise. And it allegedly has great effect. Now, the great Harry Price had a table, and in this table he would put musical instruments to see if, and it was a closed table, and he would have like stylophones and glockenspiels, bits and bobs like that, to see if somebody could, this was a telekinesis kind of experiment, to see if people who were supposed to have this ability would be able to actually make these instruments play in that. So when we started looking at this concept of music in the paranormal, it covers so many different areas, doesn't it? And so many different forms of music, because you could even argue your talking voice is a form of instrument.
Yep.
Yeah, your voice is one of the most powerful instruments you've got.
The thing with particularly when you talk, you in your head, when you talk, you have a certain way of how your voice sounds, because obviously it sounds different to you to how it is. And when I've done some television work, and I watch myself back, I don't recognise the voice coming back at me.
Yeah,
Because
I can't stand hearing myself.
I'm not used to hearing it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's down to obviously the thing, the hearing and the little things in your ear that vibrate. Vibration again produces the sound. Funny enough, on tonight's investigation, we have a lady from Walsall Deaf Association. She's here with a signer, and she's been on a few investigations when we've been doing stuff. And I've had a conversation with her on a few occasions where, because she can't hear, her other senses are heightened.
Yes.
Yeah.
But she also occasionally, particularly when we're playing, say, the spirit box or something that changes the resonance of that, she sometimes hears something in her ear because it's vibrating slightly different. Can't hear sounds, obviously, but she's hearing the vibration. So
that's similar to dogs, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's similar to dogs and their hearing.
Yeah. It's like you say, when you blow a dog whistle, humans can't hear it, but dogs can. And that thing for antisocial things where you see in shopping centres where they play a sound, and it's to be it's supposed to under a certain age they can hear it, and it annoys their hearing, so they disperse or they keep away from certain areas.
Yeah.
And obviously the American government at the moment, they're also playing around with sonic weapons.
Yes, they are. Yes, and there's that one. The embassy. Oh God, where's it? Where it was tested? That sonic weapon was tested. People were vomiting and everything. Yeah. And there's also one other thing.
They use it quite a lot on oil tankers going through the Gulf, because obviously you have pirates. You know, obviously they have a
Uar.
Yeah, exactly. Pieces of bait and all that. Not those type of pirates.
I don't think they do that these days.
No. We're talking the pirates that basically want to hijack the ship and ransom it off and whatever.
They have AK-47s and a big tank.
Yeah, but they're. I know. I was watching a documentary not so long ago, and one of the weapons that they use on some of these oil tankers is like a sonic blast. So they have this dish, and you point it, and it resonates a sound, and it will mess about with people's equilibrium, so they can't get too close to the ship.
God. Isn't it amazing what things are devised these days? Anyway, we're actually coming to the end of the show.
I just ask, soft boobs?
I don't
Somebody
know.
in the chat room, Mr. Darrell, soft boobs. Get your mind out the gutter. I know where you've been hanging around, mate. Cool.
I honestly don't know what he's talking about. We must have said something that sounded like that. I don't know. Anyway, we are coming to the end of the show, and this is a huge topic that covers so many different areas, but, you know, and so many concepts come out when you start talking about music and sound in the paranormal field. Absolutely fascinating. Now, next week, on next Friday's show, we're having a news and reviews week, so we're going to be scanning the socials to see what's been going on and passing a dark mirror look at the various topics we can come up with. Mark,
It could be a busy show.
It could be a busy one. There's been a heck of a lot going on over the Christmas period, which I'm not sure I'm really not quite sure where that show is going to go, to be fair. But next week we're looking at news and reviews across the paranormal field to find out what's been going on and pass our dark mirror perspective on that one for you. But your listening pleasure is not over for the week on Parasearch Radio just yet. Tomorrow evening on the Parasearch Radio Facebook group page, our lovely Penny G. Morgan is live with her presenter Q&A, going live at 5 p.m. She will be there, so you can ask her any question you want. And I challenge everybody to go over there and ask her lots of questions on history and see if we can catch her. She's so going to kill me. You wait till it's my turn.
I will make sure I do.
And then on Sunday evening at 9 p.m, I have got the lovely paranormal blogger from Living Life in Full Spectrum, the lovely Sarah Chimasero, in the studio talking to me with conversations with show. Now, we will also be looking at the the horrible situation that is happening in Australia at this moment in time, and catching up with somebody who is actually living over there. And luckily enough, Sarah's not actually in a danger zone, but she's obviously a lot more aware of what's going on than we get fed by the news media. So it's going to be interesting to hear that perspective. So thank you. So that's our first show done, guys, for the first show of the year.
I was about to say, first one of the year. Well done, everybody. Aliens and soft boobs and hearing aids blowing up. So yes, a good show all round.
And you,
Mr. Carl, whatever he's doing in his car.
Carl is going back to his investigation at Drakelow Tunnels. What sort of time do you think you're going to be wrapping it up, my darling?
We're finishing at 4.
4 in the morning.
Yeah.
They will make how cold that place gets.
Yeah, well, I'm because I'm obviously in the car and I've got a bit of heating going on. I am sort of like cooking in my own juices at the moment.
You are
Really?
You're going to feel it when you go back in there.
Yeah. Once I go back in, I will probably...
Just give me these lines. You just feed them to me. He's cooking his own juices. He's going to feel it later. Oh, my God.
I'm dogging in Drakelow. Go on, get him all out.
Dogging in Drakelow.
Get him all off your chin.
All I can say is the cold never bothered him anyway. And on that note, say goodnight, guys.
I'm going to go and kill myself now. My ears are bleeding. Good night, guys.
And I will say good night and don't be scared.
And remember, don't have nightmares. It's just her singing.
Here they go, rambling off. I'm going to just cut them off. I'm just going to cut them off now. Good night, guys.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.